Welcome to Just Talking About Jesus. I'm Jan Johnson, a seasoned believer who loves relationships and, just talking about Jesus.
But that moment when I was past E, past reserve, past everything else, and I was crying as I'm hiking through the jungle and it's day 2 and we have no water, no food, I just thought for the first time in my entire life, I had to trust God 100%. There was no other option.
Welcome, my friends, to episode 58. Now, here's a fun idea. Let's go on a short-term mission trip. It'll be fun. Adventure, new experiences, meet new people, share the gospel. I'd raise my hand for that. I love all of the above. You might remember the true story of Jim Elliot, who was an American missionary to Ecuador. In 1952, he felt a strong calling to reach unreached people groups, those who had never heard the message of Jesus Christ. The Huani were isolated, hostile, and violent to outsiders. But the missionaries believed that they were called by God to bring them the message of salvation through Jesus. So how did they go about that? The missionaries used a small plane to drop gifts to the Huani and made friendly contact attempts for several months. In January 1956, they set up a camp near the Huani territory and finally met a few tribe members. Tragically, on January 8th of 1956, all 5 missionaries were speared to death by members of the Huani tribe. Here's the but God moment. Jim's widow, Elizabeth Elliot, later returned to live among the Huani with her young daughter and successfully shared the gospel. Many tribe members, including some involved in the attack, eventually became Christians. So what does that have to do with Susan Peterson? Today you'll hear how she, her husband, and 2 boys experienced that same grueling trip and lived to tell. We are here today with Susan Peterson. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. So good to be here.
I don't even know where to start with all the things that Susan has done and her adventures and where God's taken her, like women's ministry, missionary, in hard places.
Short-term missionary.
Still
there.
Still there. Mother of 3, homeschool. I don't know. Wrote a book. Yeah.
Lots of fun things.
Lots of fun things.
I do feel like life has been an adventure, right? And you
Totally.
talk about that a lot too, but it has been.
Mm-hmm.
And all the things, especially as God unfolds things in each different season as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So let's see. Let's start with the big one. How about the missionaries? Tell me how you got started in that idea or where you got prompted to do that.
I think going on missions trips is so important. I think going on even short-term missions trips, and that can be anywhere for a couple of days to a couple of weeks, whatever it is. But I think it's so important to introduce kids to other cultures, other different ways of living, and then you don't bring Jesus there because Jesus is already there wherever we go because he is. But we have the opportunity to share him in different ways and to learn from them, then to build one another up as we're one family in the kingdom of God. That's the joy of it. So we went on we launch into that part. So one of the things we got to do in 2007, there's a story in 1956, there was 5 missionaries killed at the end of a spear, which is the name of a book. Mm-hmm. It was Nate Saint, Jim Elliot, and 3 others, and profoundly affected the world. And they were young men of the Waodani tribe, and they killed these 5 missionary men. And then the women came back. Some of the women came back and reconciled with the men. The men became Christians before that, and God just massively used their story to profoundly change many people. So we had the opportunity to go in 2007, and that was spent 3 days into the jungle, and that is 8-hour.
Right there is an adventure.
Such an adventure. It was, I have to tell you, I will tell you this, it was a youth group trip, right? So it was supposed to be a youth group trip. And then all the parents are going, not a chance. And not let my kids go into the jungle. And so then I said, well, can I go? And the youth pastor said, not a youth, you're too old. It's like, well, can I go?
But I act like a youth.
I'm young at heart. But I said, I'll help out. So all 3 of my kids decided to go. of course, because it's an adventure. It's in the jungle, and I've got boys, so that was a natural tie-in, right?
I mean,
And so then we came, and we were all going to
and there's
go.
snakes, and there's,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Danger.
vipers and
Yes.
insects and
Yes.
big creepy crawly things,
All the gross things in life.
Yeah.
And I came home and asked my husband, do you want to go? And he said, I don't really think so. It's like, excuse me? And he said, I don't know if I'll be able to sleep well. It's like, well, no, you probably won't because it's in the jungle. So contrary to my natural opinion, I closed my mouth and I didn't say anything until he asked about it. We talked and prayed about it. So 3 weeks later, he said, well, what do you think? And I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, if you do not go, you will miss out on one of the most incredible adventures of our life. And our boys and me will know all these incredible things that God has done, and you won't be a part of it. You'll hear it, but you won't have experienced it. You won't be a part of it.
Yeah.
So he was on board. So then we came back, and after that trip, he became head of the missions board. So that's one of the way God's worked. But I will tell you, one of the most profound things in my entire life happened on the second year that we were going into Ecuador. And I'll make a long story short, but we were going in there, and it's a bus ride, and then it's a jungle ride and everything else. On this particular trip, we were supposed to take a small plane into the jungle. Wasn't enough fuel that year. So God had told me beforehand, months beforehand, start working out. I don't want to really work out on the treadmill, but okay. So I was just working out, right? So fast forward, we're going to Ecuador. There was a situation at the airport where they would not allow us to come in, just my family, to come into the airport.
Really?
So we landed there, and they pulled us aside. Immigration pulled us aside, and they go, okay, you guys back on the plane and go back to the United States. It's like, oh, Jesus, no. This is not, you haven't prepared us for all this for that.
Yeah.
They said that our passports were bad, which they weren't. I had washed them, but they weren't bad. Just saying. So, series of events. And I will tell you, I'm going to share this part because it's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
We're sitting at the airport. We got prodded back up to the waiting area to wait for the next plane. And we are praying. And we have the embassy on the line. We have all these other things going on. People are knowing about it. And you're sitting in the airport, and like people in the United States, they don't really talk to you in the airport. But there, everyone's going, why are you here with guards all around you? It's like, well, we're trying to come in as missionaries. So people are yelling at the guards and all those kind of stuff. Most important thing that happened to me at that moment was that for the first time, I really understood spiritual warfare. I don't know if you've ever read the Frank Peretti books.
Yep.
Yep. So, but when I had read those, I got a picture of it. And as I'm sitting there in the airport, I saw the heavens, the air in front of me rent open, and I saw the spiritual warfare going on. And I thought, oh, Jesus, there you are fighting for us and saying this is going to happen. So we finally were able to get through. So another series of events, too long to get into right now. And we got there, and we were supposed to go for a walk, a hike. When you say a hike,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so it turned out to be 2 days. I fondly refer to it as a hike of death because we had to go through the waters. We had to go through a river that was waist high. We didn't have all the food with us because we weren't planning on doing that. So we were hungry and thirsty, and we were hiking through the jungles of Ecuador to try to get to this village that we had been to the year before. And very few white people had ever been that way. I understand why.
Do you have a map? You have just a guide?
We had a guide.
You have
with
a
us.
nose that you're following?
Yeah,
or
a
you're
lot
just
of prayer. A lot of prayer. But really another defining moment for me in my entire life. And I had been a Christian for a long time at this point. But we had gotten there. The Wayadani had come out to greet us from the village that we've been. They said, oh, it's just around the corner, just over the hill. 3 hours later, it's still not around the hill. We've gone through a lot of hills. But
I'm tired. When are we going to get there?
Exactly. The most important thing for me, what had happened, is that some of the tribe had come out to take our backpacks off of us because we had been trudging for 2 days. We had stopped at a place, trudged for 2 days, got in there. And I just thought, when you reach the end of yourself, and you think, oh, I've got no more left. And like on a car and a gas gauge, it shows on E, right?
Yeah.
That's where I was. But you also have some reserve, usually, a little bit. I thought, okay, had the reserve, went through that, and I'm still trudging and walking. And by this time, I had kept my own backpack because of my own pride. I thought, no, I got this. I don't got this. So I had kept it. And so now I'm by myself because everyone walks at a different pace. There's pretty much one trail, but walk it. And I am crying and I am past empty. I'm past my reserve. I'm past anything that I ever might
And
have
your
had.
husband was not on this trip?
He was on this
Oh,
trip,
he was
but
on
he
the trip,
was
but
at a different walking pace than I was. His story is also really difficult. At one point, I will tell you the day before, he just said, I need to stop because he hurt. And he goes, can you just cover me with like a mosquito net? Just come get me in the morning. I actually can't do that. So everyone has their own journey, right? God uses each thing. So at that moment, when
I'm
I
not
was
sure I
so
can find
perplexed-
you. If
Yeah, I
came
know,
back.
right? Yeah,
Because I don't have a tracker on my phone.
you're in the jungle.
Just not picking up the
There's no
Wi-Fi.
GPS. But that moment when I was past E, past reserve, past everything else, and I was crying as I'm hiking through the jungle and it's day 2 and we have no water, no food, I just thought for the first time in my entire life, I had to trust God 100%. There was no other option. And like we hate to come to that point, and it was awesome because my life changed. Honestly, my life changed from then on.
Yeah.
Because I just trust God
Yeah.
with everything that goes on. Still struggle, all the stuff you do normally go through. But I just think if God's got me in the jungle where nobody else even knows where we are or anything else that's going on, and there's wild animals and snakes and darkness fell and no water, no light, no water, canopy of the jungle. But God is an amazing God. He sees
God.
beyond. Yeah, but
Yeah.
God.
But God.
And I
But
just,
God.
I just trust him 100%.
But then it's just like, because where do you get close to God?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So what I have to ask you is you have these 3 boys. How old are they?
Testing time, 38, 30, almost.
No, I mean at the time.
Oh, at that
you were
time.
that
Oh,
time.
gosh.
I don't care about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just old men
They're
now.
just, wow. Don't let them hear that.
I won't.
14, 16, and 18.
Okay. Could have been worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who was the strongest?
They all were, because what they did on that hike for 2 days, they took everybody else's backpack to make sure that we were okay. So Kellen actually wasn't on that trip. It was just Bryce and TJ. So it was my middle son and my youngest son.
Okay.
So he was not on that trip. But my other 2 took everyone else's backpack, made sure that they were doing okay, and really checked up on everybody else.
And nobody got sick or maybe a little dysentery?
No, they got sick. On the trip, my middle son's girlfriend, who is now his wife, had popped out her hip. So she was in a lot of agony as she's walking, and that was on day 2. One of the other men also got very sick, and he had to stop quite frequently. So all of these other things added to that. We also had a guy with us on that trip who weighed over 300 pounds. Really hard for him to walk.
Whew.
And part of his story, and I'll share it just briefly, is that he just could not physically go any further.
Yeah.
And he said, God, you have to move me. And he saw his foot lift up. Poof. And his other foot, he goes, God, you have to keep walking with me. You have to lift my feet. He just saw God lift his foot, one foot in front of the other, and God just walked him on through until we got to the village that we had been the year before that. And they had cleared steps for us, which they don't need, but they did it for us, knowing that we were coming in. And they were so excited to see us. And it was a glorious homecoming.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
It makes you think about how many stories are that we don't know about of the Israelites.
Yes.
Going on those walks,
Yes.
Really?
And can you imagine when we get to heaven, we have all of eternity to listen, to hear their stories, and to get to know them on a personal level. That's so exciting.
I know. I have to take my mic.
I love it.
So once you got there, then what kind of ministry did you do? What was that? I mean, they obviously knew you and were waiting for you to come back.
And we heard, one of the things they said is, because we had been there the year before, and they said, we've been praying for you every Saturday. And I thought, oh my gosh.
Of course they did.
We haven't been praying for you. Do you know what I mean? Life gets busy and you're doing things. We prayed for them, but every week faithfully?
Yeah.
That blew us away. Yeah. Absolutely blew us away. And, like I said, we're deep into the jungle. Our ministry, I thought we would do ministry the next day, being with them, sharing our stories, listening, maybe doing some teaching, but being there. But the next day, because it was Sunday, they wanted us just to rest. And the greatest thing is to see the best picture, my 14-year-old, there's a massive, because you're in the rainforest, massive mud puddle, pond. And he and all of these little boys are just running
Of course
tummy
they
diving
are.
on them. And our missionary looked at us and goes, "That is ministry."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that changes my understanding of
Yeah.
what ministry is.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
think of ministry as
'Cause you're connecting.
doing things or serving.
Yeah.
But you're right. It
Connecting.
is the connecting, the
Yeah.
being, we are really, truly bonded together as a family.
Yeah.
So cool.
Wow. Wow. My husband is addicted to sponsored kids. I say he has 40 of them. And it's with Unbound that also does elderly and college students and whatever too. So
Wow.
now he's taken to kind of the older ones, but we've had families. At any rate, they write letters 6 times a year, which he answers all of.
My word.
But every single one of them says, "We're praying for you. We're praying for you."
So we kept going back to Ecuador. We've gone there for the last 17 years.
Yeah. I got to tell you my Ecuador
Yeah.
story because the listeners haven't heard that either. We're in Guatemala, and one of the social workers is walking along with us and says, "Such and such kid, their house is like really, really, really bad. Do you think you could help with a house?" It's like $5,000,
Yeah.
build a house.
Wow.
Cinder block house, right? So I guess, yeah, sure. So we get home. Ed has another new kid from Ecuador. He gets the first letter from this kid, and he says, "Thank you for sponsoring me, and thank you so much for you're going to build us a house." And Ed's going, "That's not the right kid."
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
He's going, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm doing 2 houses because if God set this up, he's going to figure it out, right?"
And you can't say something and then not do it, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
even though the wires got crossed there and something happened. So a few years later, we end up going down to Ecuador. We get to see this kid and his family. The dad it's a dad and Hamilton and his sister and mom. So he actually was a bricklayer, which worked out great. But he said, "Here's what happened. I was down to no job, nothing, everything had stopped and whatever. And I just was like, how am I going to feed my family? What am I going to do?" And so he's praying about it. And he says, "On that day, I get the letter that Hamilton's going to be sponsored." Right.
Wow.
And that you're going to build a house.
How powerful is that?
So we got to see him inside of their house, and it's beautiful, and it's just,
wow.
like, absolutely. And I think the thing that constantly, just like your people, the thing that just hits me all the time is from all the way down there, somebody prays for something and zaps it up to God, and he says, "Yep, you're the guys that are going to take care of that. You're going to do it,
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah. The first year that we were in Ecuador, we were, like I said, deep into the jungle. And we're in there, and one of the Wadani men, who was actually one of the killers, which is what they call themselves, so it's not like I'm slandering him. But one of the killers his name was Yue, and he stood up in the church, and it's got a tin roof, no walls on it, and he starts preaching in Wadani. Now, Wadani is a very nasal, it's a very nasal language. I don't speak Wadani. I don't even speak Spanish. I have no idea what he's saying. But as he was preaching, I knew that he was teaching the word of God. And our translator was telling us that he was talking about heaven and how we'll all meet each other again in heaven. And it's like, again, one of those heart zings where you think, Jesus, you are truly everywhere, and the same Jesus everywhere. One God, one Father, one family.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful when you realize that, because nobody is better or worse, inferior, or anything else superior. You are one family in Christ, and we're all going to be together. And when we're together in heaven, I won't have to know Spanish or Wadani. We'll all know it. I don't know how that works, but I'm so excited I'll be able to actually understand them. But it is so powerful then to connect, and how God does that. It's a beautiful network.
Yeah.
It really
It's
is.
just amazing.
I love
It's
it.
amazing. It's amazing. Those little tiny things, that just kind of do that. It was like,
Yeah.
I had the same thing happen on a mission trip to, where was it? It was in Peru. And somebody came up and said that they'd been praying for a certain thing. And here we were with the answer to whatever that prayer was. It's kind of like,
so
that you would use me. I don't know.
Yeah, that we get to be allowed to partner.
To be a part.
Yeah. We've been going to Cuba, the last couple years. My husband and I went there in August. We just came back in February, and we're going again in June, which is communist country, very different feel. And they're so isolated, being on an island, everything has to be shipped in. And it is such a depth of poverty to go there and such an incredible blessing. And when we went the last time, we got to teach to a women's group. That's my heart. It's like, I get to teach with the women and not bring Jesus, but teach differently. And then we get to talk and we build relationships. And that's like the best thing ever.
The best.
So we went there but again, poverty, it is an amazing poverty. They earn $14 a month. That is their average income. And they're given some by the government, but not enough. And they've had blackouts.
I mean, we go out to lunch.
Exactly.
A sandwich is $14.
Starbucks. How many Starbucks? And I think none of that is when I came home and it weighs really heavily on your mind. Mm-hmm. I don't think that is to condemn us. I think that is to motivate and to move us.
Yeah.
We are blessed. We have clothes, which is good. But, we have cars, we have all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. With that, with what God has given us, then we are to give others. If I were to write a book.
Another one.
If I were to write another book, I would call it So That.
Yeah.
Because I believe that God has given us these things so that. Nothing is to stay here and land here, but it is given to us specifically so that we are to love one another, do that outwardly. And I just think that's so powerful. And it's such
If you have the title, that means...
Yeah, it means I got to do it, right? No, we'll see how that... You're good at the titles, and your first chapter is kind of ready on your next one. So you're kind of rolling with it.
I mean, he might be telling you.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be, it can be a novella that's only, 60,000 words instead of 120 something, whatever.
We're working on that. I'm still working on the story of Ecuador, of that trip, because so many things happened. We had probably like 14 miracles happen in that short amount span, which also, like I said, it transformed my youngest son, who was thinking, no, is Jesus really the only Son of God? Is there that? And he came back, his faith is rock solid. I mean, boom, he is sold out for the Lord. He knows exactly.
Wow.
But that works with his job.
Yeah.
Because he is a human trafficking victims advocate supervisor. So he works with victims of human trafficking. And he can do that and face that kind of evil because his faith is solid and his trust is solid.
Yeah.
So, poof.
Yeah. He's got the armor.
Yeah, he does. He does.
To do that.
The armor and the prayer.
So you're a women's speaker.
Yes.
What do you do?
Speak on whatever God says to speak on, right? That's a given, but it's also entirely true, because with each different group you go before, and hopefully you've got some time to plan, it's like, Jesus, what do you want me to say to this group? And I look at it as like a pipeline, and the pipeline can get really clogged and rusty if we don't take care of it. But all I want to be is a conduit for Christ, that he would speak through me to the women, so that's the only reason I really want to do that. So just different things. I'm involved with CBS, which is Community Bible Study, and I have been for 28 years attending. Describe that. Community Bible Study has been around, it's been around for 50 years now. It's very similar to Bible Study Fellowship. It's in 75 different countries, and we meet together once a week. And the thing that I love about it, it's a Bible study. So we're not reading somebody else's book. We're reading the Bible and studying it and digging deep into it. Yeah. And then you break up into your core groups, and there's a fellowship. And I even like the rules. I am not usually a rule follower, a rule enjoyer. I don't know how you want to phrase that. But I like it because you don't talk about politics, your family, what else you kind of do, what you do job-wise. You talk about what you just read, and you're sharing your different insights. That is so precious to hear what other people get. You hear them sharing, you think, I would have never have thought about that. So, and then I teach too there. And I love doing that, because when you teach, as you know, you have to dig a lot deeper. Deep, and you get to know the most. It does. Yeah. But, and I know you know this too, but it's like, for every half hour that I speak, it's like 15 to 20 hours of prep work, research, praying. And then you only get to share a half hour, but I think the rest of it, God goes, I know, but there's a lot you need to hear. You need to be changed. I know you were singing for others, but you're the one that needs to be changed. So it's such a joy and such a pleasure of mine to be able to do that. So and what's better than spending all this time in the Word? Right? Yes. And it's funny. One of my daughter-in-laws had said the other day, she said, the people at our church, the little old ladies, she goes, they might not go to a lot of other things, but they never miss their Bible study. And at first I was thinking, well, kind of one of those little old ladies. But then I thought, that's because they know what's true, what's real. Because after all is said and done, we have this much time left on earth.
Yeah.
And they are studying the Word of God to know and to be Christians and to spread Jesus' light. And I thought, that's because they know it's good. They know the real stuff at this point.
Yeah. And, there's community.
Yes.
You're ending up with relationships that are deep relationships, and where do you have that? And it's just inspiring to have God talk.
Yes.
Because you can go to church, I don't know how many times, and maybe you don't really even think about what God did with you. It's just, this is what happened, but not necessarily where God was, or,
Yes. I sat on it. We just flew out here to Oregon on Friday from LA. And I sat next to a woman on a plane, and we started talking. She's a grandmother, so we were talking, and she lives around the same area, and we had a lot in common. And, then the plane takes off, and you kind of start to do your own thing. So I'm pulling out my Bible studies on Ephesians. And one of the things it says is make the most of every opportunity. And I start laughing. It's like, so I can read about it, or I can put this down and talk to her more. And so we did. And I said, do you go to church? Where is it? She goes, no. And she said the same thing you just did. She goes, I really want to find community. And I think I really need to go to church. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, of course you do. I said it gently. But so we started talking about where she could go to church. And then I told her about CBS, the Bible study.
Yeah.
And she said, again, I need to read the Word of God, and I need community. And I thought, yeah, because we women, we need community.
Yeah.
Guys seem to be okay without it as much as we do, but we crave it.
Mm-hmm. I think we're made for that. It's in our nature.
It is the way God designed us.
Yeah.
So, all of those things.
All right. Well, you homeschooled your boys.
We're all
back
alive.
in a time when it was not everything so accessible,
right?
Either.
Not as popular.
Not as popular and not as accessible.
It was.
Yeah. Why did you choose to do that?
I don't know if I chose to do it. There was another family at our church who was homeschooling their kids, and I thought, that is so cool. Their kids were great. I wonder if they would raise my kids. They said no. It's like, dang.
They said, maybe if they were girls, I might consider it.
Maybe. But God was actually really clear. I have heard God's voice a couple of times in my life, and I know that He's done that for me, because that way there is no out. There's no questioning, like, I don't know if it was really God. It was adamantly God.
Mm-hmm.
And He said to homeschool. So that first year, before we actually launched into it, because He told me that as school was starting, I spent the time praying and studying and reading every book. First day of school, I did it just like school. I had desks. I had the kids set. I had everything all I read. I mean, I wrote out everything I was going to say. And then like 20 minutes, I just tossed the whole thing. It's not going to work like this. But each of my kids is different, right?
Yeah.
And so each of them learn differently. My middle one has ADHD and ADD and dyslexia, minor Tourette's. And you would never know that now looking at him. But I'm glad I was able to homeschool him so we could address those things and teach him the way he needed to be taught. My middle son just blitzed through everything. He wanted to. Graduated at 16, college at 20, PhD at 25. Great, you want to do that? Do that. And Kellen, phenomenally smart and a traditional learner. So we were able to do all of those different learning styles by homeschooling.
Yeah.
And the best thing is that we did Bible every single day. And there's Bible in English, there's Bible in math, but we also studied the Bible every day.
Yeah.
And honestly, I attribute that. We've gone to church always. We've gone to CBS, and the kids went to CBS as well. But I attribute being able to really teach them Bible every day as to their strong faith in the Lord right now as young men.
Yeah.
Or older men, whatever they are right now. They're men, so it's all good.
That's all good. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And we struggled. Homeschooling was not.
No, it's not always.
It's not easy.
I mean, I was a teacher. And just can't even imagine. I just homeschooling my kids. Maybe there's some of my kid, but it's like, you don't know anything. You're not the teacher. Yeah, I actually am. But
I
do
would
know a
not
little
have
bit.
continued on if God also hadn't even said halfway when I asked Him so desperately, please, are you sure you want me? Because military school, I was thinking that's a great option. I thought all these different things.
And that crossed our mind.
Exactly, right? Because there was parts of it that was just hard and not fun. And there were parts that were wonderfully fun. But God, again, spoke to me in the middle of doing that and said, you are to continue on. And that's all He said. It's like, I guess that's all I need to know.
Fine.
Yeah. Yay, God. Thank you, Jesus. So
Not the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. But it was good. And through all of that, my boys are really good friends with each other. They've
Yeah.
had to go at it with it. We've had to go at it, but we talked about everything. We laid things on the table. There were things that we obviously don't agree with, but I find that still, now that my boys are men, we still have a very tight relationship and are able to talk about anything and everything. And I am so thankful for that.
Yeah.
Lay things out on the table, find out where you at. And you know what? I also find out that even in their maturity, we can still speak. My husband and I can still speak truth to them in love.
Yeah.
But say honestly, have you thought about, I've noticed this, and I love you deeply. All the good things. So it's been a good journey.
Yeah. Well, this has been a good talk.
I so appreciate being on here. So thank you so much for asking me. I just love it. I love talking about it. Really, I just love sharing what God is doing because He is always active.
Yeah.
And in this season in my life, as we're older, and like that part isn't a part anymore, I think grandkids, I'll pour it into you. My husband, I'll pour it into you. And where else, Jesus, right? You with your books and you with everything else going on.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah. Anything else you want to leave with our listeners, watchers?
I just think if I were to pare down the Bible, and I know we're not supposed to, so won't, but if I were, I would just say the most important things that I am learning from it right now is love God and love one another. And those are the things that, we wake up in the morning and Romans 12, offer yourselves as a living sacrifice to God. But I want to do those things because, and this is the last thing I'll say, I have this much time left. Might only be this much time, might be this much, but I have that much time. What can we do in the name of Christ, for Christ, through Him, for Him, to honor Him and glorify this side of heaven? Because there's a lot to look forward to in eternity and all of heaven.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Very much so.
All right. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
So, are you ready to join that trip? I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I'd make it past 30 minutes. But truly, isn't it amazing what God does? Who would know that years later, the man who killed Jim would come to Christ and tell his story all over the world? I tell you, that God of ours is pretty amazing. He knows the beginning from the end. He turned ashes into beauty. Do you have a friend or relative that would find value in this episode? Please share it. I want to make sure that you know that these are all on YouTube as well. So if you prefer to watch it or want to watch it with a friend or family member, that would be cool. The links are in the show notes. And if you watch on YouTube, consider subscribing, because just when you subscribe to this podcast and get notification when new episodes are out, the same will happen if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Then you won't miss any of them. So I'll leave you with these scriptures. Mark 16:15. You can probably guess it. He said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." And Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. Music for this episode was from Dan Phillips, so I want to give credit to that. Blessings, my friend. I look forward to joining you next week when we hear from Catherine Rose about being single and not seeing the answer to her prayers. Take care.